Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Right, we're on Music Mongoose here. The video's a year old, to be honest. It's had 346,000 views. This is a crack I've known for like maybe about 17 years. I've known this crack. And I've never mentioned it before, to be honest, but I've passed a few videos in the last few days mentioning it. So I thought I'd just mention it, to be honest, because I think it's probably a common known crack, I would have thought now, to be honest. But just in case it isn't, I thought I'd mention it. So the crack is that Paul McCartney, pictured here, walking across Abbey Road, I believe. He's got no shoes on, if you notice. All the other people have shoes on. This is supposed to be symbolism that the real Paul McCartney, died in a car crash in 1966. After an argument with John Lennon about something, he took off in his sports car and he crashed on possibly the M6. I'm not quite sure. I don't know, maybe tell us in here the actual road, but there is pictures of a car crash as well. I've seen. So the crack was that Paul McCartney, the real Paul McCartney, died in a car crash at the height, or the just a bit at the just about the peak, but before the peak of the Beatles' fame. So he was replaced by somebody who won a lookalike competition. Um, and yeah, he was replaced because the band was so big at the time, and that's the conspiracy. That's the tale, and apparently there's plenty of. I mean, this video is called "Paul McCartney Died in 1966." Here's the proof. I don't know. I haven't watched the full video. I just picked this one at random, to be honest. So I'll more tell you the crack about Paul McCartney, who's apparently died in 1966 and was replaced by a different man. So the whole him not wearing shoes here as they crossed Abbey Road is part of some of the symbolism left behind, apparently, by the band, and other things in other songs and album covers, and when you play music backwards, and there's all sorts, to be honest. There's all sorts of weirdness, and yeah, that's all sorts of weirdness, to be honest. But I do love a bit of weirdness. Do you know what I mean? I do love these kind of cryptic, mystic, conspiratorial, fucking down a rabbit hole. Is it true? Isn't it true? What's the evidence? Let's have a look at it. I do kind of enjoy these rabbit holes, to be honest. I haven't watched a documentary many, many years ago. I believe it was called The Winged Beetle. I believe that's the name of the documentary. Bear with me just a second. So, here we are, The Winged Beetle, 2012. So, yeah, like it's only 13 years maybe. I've heard. I must have seen this when it first come out, because I, honest to God, I've known this for a long time. So 2012 it must have been. Again, that was when we thought the world was going to end with the Mayan calendar bullshit and all that kind of crack. So I was kind of well into all this at that time. I remember that time with the Mayan calendar and everything, and the film 2012 come out as well. That was quite a good film, to be honest. It's not bad. So the documentary, the full documentary, an hour and 39 minutes here on a channel called Aguja Sonora, um, is the full documentary, The Winged Beetle, 1 hour 38, 39 minutes of the full crack, to be honest. So that's there if anybody wants to watch the full. If you haven't seen, that's where the original conspiracy sprung from, I think. It maybe beforehand, but that was sort of how it's all been compiled together into a sort of documentary. I remember it being called The Winged Beetle, so that is that 2012 extended version there. Um, yeah, that's how long sort of this crack's been knocking around though, maybe 13 years. So I've known it for a while. So, um, back to this one. So part of the symbolism left behind is that he's got no shoes while they're walking over Abbey Road here, dead man walking. He's smoking a cigarette and it's in his right hand. Apparently, Paul McCartney was left-handed and used to do everything left-handed, apparently. So that was another crack, and he's smoking with his right hand. There's multiple things. There's a white Beatle in the background. There's some sort of symbolism as well. They're kind of dressed as a funeral procession here. Paul, all in white. It's again the grave digger at the back, I believe, and possibly the funeral director, the dead man walking. So there's a lot of symbolism involved. Again, I'm not tip top on all this sort of symbolism of everything and the occult and all what they do in symbolism and stuff. Again, people sort of say don't go too deep into that shit as well. That's the other side of it. People say don't get too deep into the occult and all the mystic meanings and all the bullshit. Really, it's a dark world, so don't get too deep. Is a thing I've heard said many a time. So you don't go too deep, and there is plenty of people who've gone deep and will tell you the crack. So that's another way of looking at it. Don't go too deep into the world of dark fucking ritual sacrifice and weirdness. It's a lesson to live by. It's a lesson to live by. So let's have a listen to this anyway.
That was a section of George Harrison's song It's Johnny's Birthday played in reverse. It's a supposed clue pointing to the fact that Paul McCartney actually died in 1966 and was replaced by a double. For a period in the 60s, hundreds of these clues were found all over the material of the Beatles and the members' solo stuff as well. And whenever I put up a video on YouTube about Paul McCartney or the Beatles, I always tend to get the same sort of comments referencing this conspiracy theory. And seeing as my last video about Paul McCartney did so well, I thought, why not? Let's have a look into it. So I started researching, thinking it was all nonsense, but then I found...
Yeah, you like again, you think it's nonsense, but there's quite a lot of backing for it, to be honest. That's the thing. It's like, I think in the end, my theory is that he did die and he was replaced. I think is the crack, to be honest. Yeah, I kind of think that just from all the stuff that's kind of been left in the album covers and why do all this? It's weirdness. It just seems a bit weird, to be honest. So I'm not 100%. I can't. But apparently here's the proof. And this guy was a disbeliever, but I think he's come around here. So we'll have a listen.
Some weird stuff. Hi, I'm Adam. Welcome back to Music Mongoose. So the gist of the theory is, on Wednesday, November 9th, 1966, the Beatles were in a writing session for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. There were some disagreements and a frustrated Paul McCartney stormed out in a huff. He got in his Austin Healey and sped off in a rage. This rage got the better of him as the car crashed, killing Paul McCartney there and then. Some say the crash even decapitated the poor man. Instead of announcing Paul's death, the rest of the band decided to replace him instead, so that the money-making behemoth that was the Beatles could continue. Some say that MI5 actually stepped in and told the band not to tell anyone about...
So that is the crack, as I've said. He died in a car crash after an argument, and they decided to replace him rather than tell the world he'd died because the Beatles were so big and making so much money at the time. So there's a couple of factors there. One, the money thing is a good point. The money is king, so people might prioritise money. Still a bit weird maybe, but then if you know a lot about like the music industry, I mean there's more than this. This is the thing. There's a big crack about Avril Lavigne has been replaced. And a few others, to be honest, but Avril Lavigne's a big one. There's a lot of weirdness with like Britney Spears as well and her Instagrams, and she's just deleted that recently, apparently, her Instagram, and she always was just dancing around like a weirdo, but like someone who couldn't dance, and Britney could dance. That was the beauty of it. She could always dance. And I once seen a thing that people ran it through like an AI tester, and it was AI videos of some form, and it wasn't her. So there's always weirdness in the music industry, and then you've got like Lady Gaga, and you've got like all the satanic shit that they do, and then It's just the music industry's fucked up, to be honest, if you really think about it. So this isn't too far-fetched when you realise how fucked up the music. So let's hear a bit more.
Paul McCartney's death because they were worried about mass hysteria and even mass suicide.
Yeah, that's another point I never thought of, to be honest. The Beatles were massive, and there was Beatle hysteria, if anybody doesn't know the crack at the time. They were probably one of the first boy bands. I might go to Liverpool quite soon, actually, and like, do a little bit of a Beatles tour as well while I'm there. But anyhow, they were one of the first boy bands, and they were very, 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 very popular. I wasn't here at the time, but I've seen Beatlemania. It was actually called that. So there maybe was this possibility of women people killing themselves upon hearing the destruction of the Beatles and one of them dying. That is also a possibility. Again, if you look back at the times and what was going on and how big the Beatles were. So that, again, it sounds maybe far-fetched, but then it maybe not as well. Again, when they played War of the Worlds, I think it was, on the radio in New York in possibly the early 1900s, everybody freaked out and thought the aliens had come, and some people killed themselves, and there was basically mass hysteria, thinking the aliens had landed. So you never know what the public will do. A lot of the public are stupid, as we know from modern times. So yeah, I mean, again, Lado who goes around Manchester asking people very simple questions is absolute proof that people are stupid. Like, the average person is stupid. I can't get over some of the answers Lado gets when he walks around Manchester and asks very simple questions to people, and honest to God, people are stupid. So never underestimate the stupidity of people in large numbers. So that's also a possibility. A lot of people could have killed themselves. It sounds far-fetched, but again, if you really think about how stupid people are, that's not so far-fetched.
The man who landed this body double gig of a lifetime, literally, was the supposed winner of a Paul McCartney lookalike contest. His name was William Shears Campbell. And William would live the life of Paul McCartney forevermore, in the Beatles and beyond. So they managed to find a man that not only looked like Paul McCartney, but also had the natural creative talent in singing and songwriting as well.
No, apparently he wasn't as good as the real Paul McCartney. That's another side of this crack. He isn't bad. He did have talent. He was able to play the guitar and sing, but apparently the crack was he wasn't as talented as the real Paul McCartney. That is, I've heard that, and I'm sure that's in the Winged Beetle as well, possibly, but he's not as talented as the real one. But he looked enough like him, like pretty much a spitting image of him having won a lookalike contest. He could play guitar and sing well enough to do the job, because more primarily it was about how he looked. He had to look like Paul McCartney. So that was the first job. Then you can train people to sing and dance and stuff. It's been done with boy bands since we were all born, if you know what I mean. So all that stuff can be helped along as well. So, but he did have a little bit of talent, but apparently he wasn't anywhere near as talented as the real Paul McCartney.
Well, that was lucky, eh? Despite the absurdity of it all, there is some truth to the car crash. In fact, there were two accidents. Sort of. A year before this supposed deadly crash, McCartney had been involved in a moped accident in Liverpool, which left him with a scar on his upper lip. And in January 1967, Paul McCartney's Mini was involved in an accident on the M1 and written off. But he wasn't driving it. It was actually being driven by the assistant to the owner of the London Art Gallery. Paul McCartney at the time was actually in Mick Jagger's car, also a Mini. I mean, to be honest, all of that sounds more suspicious than the actual conspiracy theory, doesn't it? There was also a car crash in December of 1966. Around the same time Paul McCartney supposedly died. This is the actual photo from the scene. It was being driven by Tara Brown, and it wasn't an Austin Healey. It was a Lotus Elan. The car crash did kill Tara Brown, and his death did inspire John Lennon when writing A Day in the Life. Hence the connection with the Beatles and Paul McCartney. So McCartney wasn't involved in that accident. Or was he? No, I don't think so.
Do you know how amazing this race is? In just
I've got one of them. They're actually really good, to be honest. They're actually really good.
3 seconds, it can shave your beard smoother.
No, it's not one of them. It's a similar thing I've got, but it is actually really good for shaving your head. Anyway, moving on.
Because Paul McCartney was actually officially on holiday at that time in Kenya with his then girlfriend, Jane Asher. Or was he? Very convenient to be out of the country. Rumours started spreading following these events, and it caused a Beatles newsletter to actually issue a statement saying that the rumours were false and Paul was alive and well. The article did mention the crash on the M1 involving Paul McCartney's Mini, but of course denied the claims that he was killed. Then the whole thing sort of went away for a bit until 1969, when it re-emerged. In September of that year, a man called Tim Harper wrote an entertainment piece about the rumours in a campus newspaper in Iowa. Harper inadvertently caused the rumour to spread once more, and it gained a lot of traction. One day, a caller called in to Russ Gibb. Russ was a DJ on WKNR-FM, and this caller asked him to discuss the theories about Paul McCartney's death. The caller then asked Russ to play Revolution 9, a Beatles track, in reverse. Russ entertained the idea and did it, and was shocked by what he found. The phrase "turn me on, dead man" could be heard.
So this is where it starts getting weird with the stuff in the music and the album covers and but this is sort of the symbolism of the trying to tell you he's dead in many ways. So this is whether you believe it or not kind of thing. It's one of them in many ways. I've known it for years, and there is another video. Hold on a moment. So here's Justice for James Paul McCartney is the name of the channel. Paul McCartney versus Billy Shears voice comparison yesterday, 1965 versus 1973. Very different voices. So he's got Billy Shepherd written here for some reason. It's Billy Shears. So yeah, there's voice comparison videos as well of the two different people singing. See if anything comes of it. Yeah, 8 years isn't really a long time for your voice, I would imagine.
Yesterday, 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 yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. I said something wrong, now I long for yesterday. I said something wrong, now I long for yesterday.
So that's the crack anyway. There's more, there's hundreds of videos now. Again, the Winged Beetle, as I mentioned before, it's 13 years old, is the original documentary that's an hour and 40 minutes long if you want to go and watch that. So, but that's the crack. Paul McCartney apparently died. They replaced him with Billy Shears, and Billy Shears has been Paul McCartney since 1966. And that's the conspiracy, the winged beetle. If you want to look into it again, I don't know if it's true or not. To be honest, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of them make your own mind up kind of cracks. I'll leave you there. Peace.